It was the bloodiest conflict in American history. More Americans died in this war than in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Korea combined. It was a war where families were torn apart. Fathers fought sons. Brothers fought brothers. For 4 years, from 1861 to 1865, the United States was not united. It was split into two, the Union in the North and the Confederacy in the South. They fought over the moral soul of the nation. They fought over the meaning of freedom. And they fought to decide if this experiment in democracy would survive or perish from the earth. This is the story of the American Civil War. In the next 10 minutes, we will explore why it happened, how it was fought, and how it changed America forever. To understand the war, we have to look at the differences between the North and the South. By 1860, the North was industrial. It had factories, railroads, and a growing population. The South, however, was agricultural. Its entire economy depended on King Cotton, the labor of millions of enslaved African Americans. For decades, politicians tried to compromise, but the core issue was slavery. The South wanted to expand slavery into new Western territories. The North wanted to stop it. The tension snapped in 1860 when Abraham Lincoln was elected president. Lincoln was against the expansion of slavery. The Southern states, fearing Lincoln would abolish their way of life, decided to leave the Union. South Carolina was the first to secede. Soon, 10 other states followed, forming their own country, the Confederate States of America. They elected their own president, Jefferson Davis. Lincoln declared that states could not just leave the Union. The stage was set for war. The war officially began on April 12, 1861, at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Confederate cannons opened fire on the Union fort. The North surrendered the fort, but the war had begun. On paper, the Union should have won easily. They had more men, more money, and 90% of the nation's factories. But the Confederacy had better generals, including the legendary Robert E. Lee. Plus, they were fighting a defensive war that just had to hold their ground. The first major battle, Bull Run, was a shock. Civilians actually brought picnic baskets to watch, thinking the war would be over in a day. Instead, it was a bloody mess. The Union Army panicked and ran. Both sides realized this would be a long, horrible war. For the first 2 years, the South was winning. General Robert E. Lee outsmarted the Union generals at almost every turn. The war changed in 1863. But first, we must mention Antietam in 1862. It was the single bloodiest day in American history. 20-3,000 casualties in one day. Although it was a draw, it gave Lincoln the confidence to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. This document changed the purpose of the war. It wasn't just about saving the Union anymore. It was now a crusade to end slavery. This prevented Europe from helping the South because no one wanted to support a pro-slavery nation. Then came July 1863, the turning point. In the East, Robert E. Lee invaded the North, marching into Pennsylvania. He met the Union Army at a town called Gettysburg. For 3 days, they fought. Ended with the disastrous pickets charge, where thousands of Confederate soldiers walked into open fire. Lee lost. He retreated and never invaded the North again. At the exact same time, in the West, Union General Ulysses S. Grant captured the city of Vicksburg on the Mississippi River, cut the Confederacy in half. The North now controlled the rivers. By 1864, Lincoln put Ulysses S. Grant in charge of the entire Union Army. Grant was different. He was a fighter. He knew he had more men than Lee, so he didn't stop attacking. While Grant kept Lee busy in Virginia, Another Union general, William Tecumseh Sherman, launched a campaign of total war. Sherman marched his army through Georgia from Atlanta to the sea. He didn't just fight soldiers. He destroyed everything that could help the South fight. He burned crops, destroyed factories, and twisted railroad tracks so they couldn't be used again. He famously said, "War is hell," and he intended to make the South feel it. Sherman captured Atlanta and burned it. This victory was crucial. It helped Lincoln win the re-election of 1864. The end was near. By April 1865, the Confederate Army was starving and ragged. They were out of supplies and out of hope. On April 9, 1865, Robert E. Lee met Ulysses S. Grant at a house in Appomattox, Virginia. Lee surrendered. Grant was generous. He allowed the Confederate soldiers to keep their horses and go home to plant their crops. The war was over. But the tragedy wasn't. Just 5 days later, on April 14th, President Lincoln went to Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. to watch a play. There, a Southern sympathizer named John Wilkes Booth crept into the presidential box and shot Lincoln in the head. Lincoln died the next morning. The man who saved the Union didn't live to see the peace. The Civil War settled two things. The United States was one nation, indivisible, and slavery was dead. The 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery shortly after the war. But the cost was high. 620,000 soldiers died. The South was in ruins, and the country faced a long, painful period called Reconstruction. Before the war, people used to say, "The United States are after the war." They started saying, "The United States is." The Civil War forged the modern America we know today through fire and blood. Thank you for watching this journey through history. If you found this story moving, please like and subscribe for more. What historical event should we cover next? Let us know in the comments.